Any last words, you miserable whore of a foal? Scootaloo brought her chin high, still demanding even the tiniest fraction of dignity. You have beautiful eyes, she cooed, soft, yet clearly. What Rainbows Are Made Of. Author Silver Fox. Translated by Lines Per Hour. Now a rainbow's tale isn't quite as nice as the story we know of sugar and spice, but a rainbow's easy once you get to know it, with the help of the magic of a Pegasus device. The last weeks before the final exam at Cloudsdale Flight Academy were unusually hectic. Students were especially nervous at this time, though no pony wanted to show it. They were trying to convince each other that they were all geared up, and that passing the most important exam in their life was no harder than a pleasant walk over the rainbow. Some ponies particularly enjoyed taunting their rivals at every opportunity. However, most of the time it would end up with an exchange of scornful looks, and fights were rare. Even incorrigible bullies preferred to spend their energy on training rather than hassling. The sharp-tongued Scootaloo surely led the pack of mockers, and few ponies dared to quarrel with her. Even her best friend Orion chose to stay away when she flew into a rage. But this morning was all different. Normally beaming with self-confidence, Scootaloo looked dejected and dispirited today. Slight but noticeable shadows crept under her eyes. Her replies to standard taunts were reluctant and half-hearted. Every pony had noticed it, which only made things worse. By noon, Orion, who'd been watching his friend since the morning, couldn't take it anymore and finally had to ask. "What's up, Scoot? You're not yourself today. What happened?" "Nothing. Everything's fine," Scootaloo snorted and puffed out her chest. Orion shook his head. "Fine? We've agreed not to lie to each other a long time ago, Scoot. I can see right through you. Something's been wrong with you since this morning. You look like you've been knocked down." Scootaloo sighed. She and Orion had been best friends since they entered the academy. Even though their personalities were strikingly different, Scootaloo was a crazy mixture of recklessness and self-importance, while Orion was calm and sensible, exemplifying patience and understanding. There used to be rumors that they were lovers, but a few hard punches managed to cool the hot heads down. After one memorable scuffle, only the dumbest ones dared to tempt Scootaloo and Orion sitting in a tree taunt in front of them. At best, the taunter would end up being on the sick list for a couple of days. "Okay, I'll tell you what happened," Scootaloo muttered sourly. "But first, let's find a place where no pony else can hear us." One would think there weren't such places in the academy at all, but Scootaloo knew a few decent nooks whose only rare visitors would be absent-minded ponies who got there accidentally rather than by purpose. A side stairway leading to the upper floors was one of them. For some reason, stairways weren't very popular in the Flight Academy, so the place seemed secluded enough. Once they got there, Scootaloo began without further ado. "I had a terrible nightmare last night. It was absolute nonsense, but still it felt so real that—" She paused abruptly, searching for the right words. "I still can't shake it off. Just a bad dream, that's all?" "What in Equestria did you see in that nightmare?" Orion asked incredulously, unfindably astonished by what her friend just said. In fact, he had expected that Scootaloo had gotten herself into some sort of mess again. I don't want to tell." Scootaloo's cheeks reddened. I'm ashamed to say, I bet you'll just laugh at me," she muttered sheepishly. In fact, the mere thought about the nightmares was sending chills down her spine. "Then let's laugh together," Orion smiled. "I know if you had a nightmare, you'd better tell it to some pony, and you'll see how impossible it was." Scootaloo breathed in deeply and let out a long sigh. She steeled herself and started telling Orion about her dream. At first, blushing and stammering, but getting more confident over time. Okay, it was the final exam. The examiners were very strict and tough. They wouldn't let a single mistake, and everything was filled with anger and hatred. Pony called Aurora Dawn went first. Scootaloo gasped and continued, nearly weeping. And she broke her wing doing the stunts, and no pony was even going to help her. "No way," Orion exclaimed, startling her friend. He smiled apologetically when he saw Scootaloo's little frowning face. "I mean, they wouldn't let a pony take the final exam if she's ill or something. And who's that Aurora Dawn, anyway? There's no such pony in the academy, right?" Scootaloo looked frighteningly confused and distracted, but Orion was not sure if his words sank in. Okay, I won't interrupt you anymore," he said, and then added, "By the way, did you see me in your dream?" "Yes, I did. You felt sorry for her, and flew to help her, though doing that meant you failed the exam. And I failed, too, in a stupid way. Flying the course, I got distracted looking at Rory and you, and my head went all fuzzy and I crashed into a cloud. It was a fail." Scootaloo let out a heavy sigh and continued. "And then it turned out that all the failures were treated as worthless, good-for-nothing bums. We were brought to the Rainbow Factory." She flinched at the memory. "And something really terrible was happening there. A horrible machine crushed ponies into spectra." Orion involuntarily glanced at the huge building, known as the Cloudsdale Weather Factory. Its upper part presented a massive black sphere covered by darkest thundering clouds. It hung still, far and high in the sky, partly concealed by a white cloudy haze. And on top of that, the pony in charge of everything in the factory? Scootaloo paused. She found it strangely hard to say the name out loud. The name of the pony she looked up to, her idol and role model. Fighting back fear and embarrassment, she continued in a low voice. "It was Rainbow Dash. She was chasing me with an insane look on her face. She herself fastened me to the chains of that dreadful machine. She said I had failed her. I'd ruined her. She called me a miserable, worthless piece of foal." The orange pony sniffed and closed her eyes. Orion could swear she was about to burst into tears, but it didn't happen. Although he noticed Scootaloo started to tremble slightly. He moved closer and touched her with his wing. "Listen, Scoot, calm down, okay? It was just a dream. A really horrible one, but still, just a dream. You don't think any of these awful things can be happening in real life, do you? And I think I know why it was Rainbow Dash there. They said that she will be among the examiners yesterday. You nearly blacked out. And you kept saying, oh my gosh, the whole day." "Yeah, you're probably right." Scootaloo looked at her friend. But what if it really happens?" she exclaimed suddenly. "Clear, fly, fall, complete. I know the program inside out. I practiced it even in my dreams. Even there at the factory, I kept doing those movements all the time. But what if I mess up? What if I fail? What if you fail? They throw you into a grinder? Snap out of it, Scoot!" Orion gently pressed Scootaloo down on her hunches and sat down next to her. "Look, all you've been doing for the last month is training, and training. All you've been thinking about is how important this darned exam is, 'cause you so want to work at the factory with Dash. No wonder you've got nightmares, Scoot." Orion spoke rapidly with a tint of anger in his voice. "I mean, the world won't come to an end if you don't get that job. Even if you fail that exam, you'll just spend the entire life dragging rain clouds somewhere around in Ponyville," he added teasingly. For a moment, Scootaloo looked intently at his friend. Orion blushed slightly. He doubted he'd said the right words. He sat with his mouth open, unable to think of what to say next. Finally, Scootaloo spoke up. Yeah, I suppose I overreacted a bit. Stupid dream. A brief smile showed on her face, and Orion noticed a familiar glint of self-confidence returning to her eyes. She chuckled. Me bucking clouds around Pokeville? No way. That's better, Orion replied, relieved. They sat together for nearly an hour, reminiscing about years they spent in the academy and daydreaming about their future. They hadn't chatted like this in a long time, swamped with their training and studies. Alright, I have to go or I'll be late. Take care. Orion stood up and headed away. Hey, Orion, the orange Pegasus hailed him and smiled slightly. Thanks. I feel a lot better now. Any time. He returned the smile and trotted off down the hallway. Scootaloo stayed for a moment, looking at the dark spot at the top of the weather factory. It seemed distant, and not at all frightening now, but still mysterious. I wonder what Dash is doing up there. I'll have to ask her when we meet next time.
Let's delve deeper into rainbow philosophy, far beyond that of Cloudsdale's mythology. It's easy to misjudge that floating city with its alluring decor and social psychology.